Hi, in this video we're going to show you the travel and expense application, and specifically we're just going to show you the end-to-end process of entering travel requisitions, flowing through to expense reports, flowing into the back office, and then also at the very end of the process being able to audit this whole process. Alright, so we'll start with travel requisitions. Travel requisitions, the first thing you'll see is a list page of all the existing travel requisitions. You'll see their different, statuses. You can see, basic information, the estimated amounts. One thing that's really nice about AX 2012 is that we now have this list preview of a document that's being selected, so you can easily see kind of more details about a specific document. Of course, in this case, it's the travel requisitions and what's involved and what's included in the ones that are selected. So that's very nice. Another thing we have with our travel requisitions is the ability to create a copy. So if you have a trip that's kind of a recurring trip, for example, and the expenses are typically the same each time, you can easily create a copy of a travel requisition. And of course, you can update that and make tweaks to it. It just makes the whole entry easier for those trips that are kind of on a more of a recurring basis. And of course, you have the ability to print a travel requisition and also delegate travel requisition entry. And delegating is also applicable to expense reports. So I'm going to go ahead and just show you how easy it is to create a travel requisition. And I'll show some policies being violated here just to kind of give you a feel for what that's like. So I'll go ahead. This one is give my manager some information about this. I'm going to just go ahead and put like a business purpose. I'm going to go ahead and put a destination in there. I could put a travel description, but I think I've got enough information in there for my manager to know. So I'm going to move forward and add a new expense. In this case, we'll just go ahead and put a flight in here. And I'll just put a date that I'm anticipating flying out to this customer for this visit, and I'll go ahead and put in an amount of I looked up some flights and I found a $1,200 flight out there. And the first thing you'll see here is a policy being violated. So in this case, airfare over 1,000 USD is against company policy, and I can customize. You can see I customize. Well, this particular message was completely customized. When you're building the policies, you can decide what message is shown to the users. So it's clear to me that, hey, this is pretty expensive, obviously outside of what the company policy is. So I go back and I find hopefully a cheaper flight, and I'm going to go ahead and put in, I found a flight out there for 800, and if I go ahead and save that, the policy gets removed, the violation gets removed. So now I'm able to submit this expense report, whereas before I couldn't submit it because it was outside of that policy. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this, and of course this will go to the workflow framework. We utilize, of course, the same framework that other applications, other documents such as purchase requisitions can utilize, and all kinds of different invoices go through workflows, and we utilize the same framework. And then what we'll show is on the approvals side, I'll just show this travel requisition to you and kind of what are the options that managers have when they get a travel requisition in their workflow to-do list, basically. So here you're seeing multiple documents here, cash advances, and another travel requisition, some tax recovery document here that I could take action on. In this case, I have this travel requisition that I just submitted. Of course, you can preview it, get kind of some summary, more information about it if you want in a little pop-up. You can, of course, take approve, return, type of actions, and delegating, and all of that. And then, of course, if you want to drill into the details of the travel requisition, you just simply go ahead and open the travel requisition. I can look at the details. Everything looks good here, and so I'm going to go ahead and approve this. And so now this will be available to be, reconciled against an expense report when an expense report is created at a later date. So next I'm going to go ahead and enter an expense report just to show you that part of the process. So of course, imagine you got back from your trip. You go out here, similar to the travel requisitions, you have the same kind of look and feel. You have a list of all your expense reports that are out there, different statuses. You can flip through them and easily get more information about the different expense reports, so that's really nice. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and create a new expense report. The first thing you'll see is a list of one thing you're seeing is at the top of the list, you're seeing some mobile transactions, so something I may have sent in from a mobile device. And so we can capture those now in Dynamics AX 2012 and show them to end users. And of course, they can pick the categories afterwards. Imagine it's probably a taxi or something, expense that you maybe paid out of your own pocket, and you know that later you need to enter a manual transaction. You might capture that with transaction with their mobile phone, and ultimately we can pull this and show this on this list. The other thing you're seeing is a list of corporate credit card transactions that you may have spent. And so I'm going to go ahead and just pick one of these transactions. In this case, it's a hotel. And I'm going to go ahead and continue, and this is going to pull that credit card transaction, and it's going to pull that onto the expense report. And another nice thing about Dynamics AX 2012 Travel and Expense Solution is that we can automatically itemize things like a hotel expense or an airline expense or a car rental expense for you. We do this by capturing level 3 data. Level 3 data, of course, is kind of the breakdown of a particular expense, such as a hotel, where you will break down the daily room rates and the minibar charges and the internet charges and taxes and things. And if your hotel provides that information and your card provider, can handle it, and we can actually pull it into Dynamics AX, and we can automatically be itemizing expenses for you. So this is a very nice new feature, so users don't have to, be manually itemizing expenses if again the data is there and it's provided by the vendor. So then, of course, that's done. I don't have to do any more work on that particular expense. And I'm going to just to show you kind of a policy being violated at the expense report level, I'm going to go ahead and enter another expense. In this case, it's a meals expense, and this is just something I went out and I spent, we'll say 55 US dollars. I'm going to try and save and close this. And now you're seeing another policy violation that I had created. In this case, it's going to let me submit, but only after I've entered a justification. So it's saying I need to enter a justification here. I'll say that I, entertained the customer in this case. And so basically that should be enough information for my manager to be happy that, hey, I spent more than what I normally do, but hey, there was a good reason for it. And so I can go ahead and save that line, and everything's happy. So I'm ready to go ahead and submit that expense report. It's very simple. Again, the same process. You hit submit. You can put a comment in here for your approver if you want, and it goes and it's popped over into the workflow queue. And of course, you're seeing it here, and it shows that it's in review. And of course, once it's approved, you'll see that it's in approved state and in process for payment once it's in a process for payment state. So similar to the travel requisitions, we'll go ahead and go to the approvals page, and you'll see same thing. You'll see the same work items kind of you had before, minus the the travel requisition we approved before. Same type of pattern in terms of approving. Have the same options to approve, return, and preview, and all that. You can open the expense report to see the details. And then I'm going to go ahead, and everything looks good here, so I'm going to go ahead and approve this one. And of course, this will put the expense report into the back office, where again somebody in the accounts payable department or financials department is going to review all the expense reports before they post them. So what happens in the back office is you'll have different views. You can look at all expense reports, approved expense reports, ones that are in review, ones assigned to me, and there's just all kinds of different options there. I'm going to go ahead and look at the approved ones, and I should see this one that I had just submitted, and sure enough, there's these two transactions I just submitted. I can quick get a preview. I can also double click to get more details if I want. In this case, I'm happy with what I'm seeing. I'm going to go ahead and post the selected expense report, and everything's good to go. Now, the last part of the end-to-end process I want to show you is the auditing of expenses. So this is, again, also new to Dynamics AX 2012. What's nice about this is you can set up auditing or policies to audit all the expenses out there, and you can put in a specific time frame, and look for unusual expenses, unusual things that look out of the ordinary in terms of expenses. What I've done here is set up a policy that will allow me to kind of check for duplicate expenses. So, for example, the transaction amount is the same for the same employee for maybe the same expense type. I'm going to just show you a quick example of this at work. What you have here is I'm going to just put in a time frame, 5/31/2011 to 6/2/2011, so a few days here. I'm going to go ahead and run this test of this particular policy, and what this is showing us is that, hey, there are some expenses out here that look maybe suspicious. Why is this employee charging a meals of $55 twice? Why is there a car rental twice for the same amount, and airline and so forth? This may be completely legitimate, but certainly these may potentially be an employee trying to kind of double dip into the company's into the company's expenses. So this is an incredibly powerful tool that allows you to, again, look at all the expense reports, kind of query them and find kind of maybe some unusual, very high expense items, or in this case, duplicate expenses and so forth. So that is the very end of the process, and that's our travel and expense solution from end to end.